Welcome everyone. Today we are going to have a look at creating functional tests in Unreal Engine. Functional tests test the functionality of different features and logic that you might have written, maybe perhaps for AI or whatever else. Perhaps you want to test your first person controller, is it still shooting, and is all the functionalities that you've built over time still working while you're currently working and making changes to that same actor. And with that said, let's get started. Right, so let's create a project. We're going to create a new project, blank project, because I don't want many things to be in there. I just want to keep it super simple, do some functional tests in Blueprint and move on to C++. So we're going to select the C++ project and I'm just going to call it FT and let's create it. Okay, let's get started by creating a very simple actor. We're going to create a ball which is going to roll forward. And then we will do some tests to see if the ball actually rolls forward in the correct direction at the amount of speed that we want and so forth. So let's create a new blueprint and let's call it let's create for the blueprints and description pause. Let's just make it just a simple actor and we're going to call it BP ball. Let's open that up. In here, what we want to do is we basically just going to set up a simple sphere and the sphere is going to roll. Super simple. We're going to give it some physics. We're going to tell it to always move forward and that is about it. So let's do that. So firstly, let's enable physics. And then secondly, I think perhaps in the tick event, we can tell it to continuously add some force. So let's do that. Let's just always go forward. Let's see what it does. Let's put it in the scene. In fact, before we do that, let's create a new scene, a very basic level, not an open world level, so we can keep our test super confined and simple and quick to load. And I'm going to save this level as our first test, so let's just call this test level 1. And I'm going to throw the ball in there. And let's quickly simulate, see what happens, and nothing happens. Alright, I clearly didn't have enough force in there. I now upped it to 50,000 in force, and now it should move. Let me just move all this out of the way. Let's simulate. Okay, great stuff. It's moving forward. So let's go ahead and drop our test in here. So let's go to our test. There's a blueprint we created earlier. Remember, this blueprint doesn't do much. It just says after 5 seconds, I'm going to fail. Right? So let's compile. Let's pop that in here. So the functional test just sits here. It doesn't do anything right now. So the idea would be in this blueprint, I would grab level elements and do some checks on them. But before we do that, let's quickly have a look at how this test currently executes. So to do this, we're going to open what is called the test automation window. So the test automation window, which just popped up to my other screen, looks like that. And this basically has got all the functional tests. And as you'll see, there's different types of tests. You've got smoke test, engine test. But currently, all of these are tests that's part of the Unreal Engine. It's not what we developed, except for the one on the project. So if you open project, you can find your functional test here. This is the one we created. And so I generally just tap the projects folder and then I know everything executed. Not sure why that's happening. Or you can just press run level test. So start test is going to execute all the tests that you've selected. Where run test, let's just select our test folder. Oh yeah, I think that one. We run level test that executes the current level I'm on. So you'll see there's the current level I'm on. Okay, there is no player pawn or anything, and for that reason the camera angle is a bit weird. Let's just run that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. It should fail. So it comes back saying, let's close that. It basically says this test has failed and timed out in 5 seconds. Okay, I decided to spice up our scene a little bit. And by using some of the starter content just to make it look a bit sexier and more interesting. So yes, next up we're going to be adding our first event or our first test, and we're just going to check if the ball actually moves forward. Obviously if we simulate, it still moves forward, but we need to check that. So how we're going to be checking that is we're going to be adding a trigger to the scene, and if it overlaps with this trigger, then we will know that it's reached its destination and should pass. If it does not reach this box within say 5 seconds, then it should automatically fail. Let's open back up our blueprint, which is our test, and in our test we are going to add a variable which is going to be this trigger box. And we'll make it public, make it accessible. Let's compile it, let's go back, and now on our back to our test, we've now added this property which we now can assign to an object in the world. We discuss all the functions available. So firstly we've got event prepare test. This runs before the test starts to prepare anything. Perhaps you want to spawn something or do something. And then event start test is when the test actually starts. We won't use tick really. So let's pull in our trigger and let's assign to on overlap. So if anything overlaps this box, then we know we've succeeded. Let's also add another variable, which is the actor that we're a ball. Guess we just call it ball. And then let's make sure we are actually overlapping with this ball. So yes, we're overlapping with this ball. And then let's finish this off. So if you look for functional testing category, you're going to find a few interesting methods in here, but the one we're looking for currently is finish test. So yes, we've overlapped with the ball, finished the test, and you could finish it as succeeded. Default would be whatever was specified on the test, which is failed. So we want to succeed, and you can give it a little message if you want. That is it. Let's give it a quick run. Actually, that should be the other actor. Yes, which is the ball. Let's compile. Let's go to our scene, to our test, and let's also assign the ball. All right, now we've got the ball assigned. Let's jump to our test and let's execute it. All right, we need to change this camera angle. I forgot about that, but it did complete successfully, which is great. But now let's go change our scene bit. Okay, so let's quickly add a camera in here. Really any camera, type of camera. Let's put it in an angle which makes sense for us to have a look at the entire scene, get a good glimpse of what is going on, and let's move it back a bit, perhaps a little bit to the downside. Perfect. And then on the test itself, there's a observation point, and my understanding is that it would look at the type of object you're pointing to or how it can use it. Not 100% sure. Let's give it a go. Alright, that's great. Also, you do have it's a spectator camera, so in theory you could move around once you're in. But yes, that works quite great. I think something else would be nice visually is to be able to still see this trigger box. So let's make that thicker, and let's check if hidden in game is enabled. Yes, it is. And let's make it wider. Alrighty. let's execute the test again. That's much better. So now we can see if it's going to reach it. Let's increase the velocity a little bit. A lot. And let's just simulate and have a look at it. Still quite slow, but what we can do is we can just bring this a bit forward, move this a bit down, and see what it does. Alright. Great stuff. So, the test should now still pass. And it does. But it's not very descriptive, as you can see, it just says that. Keeping in mind, it's pointing to the object here, so we could rename this. So we could call this test underscore ball moves forward. And now if we go back to here and we refresh, that should have updated. And then I just quickly want to show you a project of mine and the test I've set up for this. In this test, we're looking at an AI character, and this character's got multiple attributes, which is attack range, attack damage, attack range, sorry, that was attack rate, health and healing. And we want to test all of those attributes by changing the values and increasing those values over time. So increasing the attack range and increasing the attack damage and making sure that the values are correct. So I've put all of them in one level, and what I did was I created a test chamber class, which is basically just this little level, and it's got a camera. And it's just all nice to haves, but what would happen now is if I execute this, so basically everything in this level, so in this first test, the rate of fire increases over time. Second test, the damage increases over time, basically every time after reload. The range, the attack range increases. Here we're testing the health, and we're testing the health regen, as you can see in the bottom right. And that's about it, but I haven't touched on much more than the basics, and we still need to look at C++ and how we could implement these tests there. So I think I'll do that in the next video, and I'll let you know when that's up. So subscribe and like, and I'll see you soon.